Hey there. So I have been thinking about this for a couple weeks. Though I may not be able to offer a definition of my experience or expression of the world in the way others might like. Um, I think it behooves me to share some definitions that I work within. Um, This is inspired by a comment somebody made a couple of weeks ago, and he or she said, "You are such a clear channel." So I need to make it clear that I'm not channeling. I do channel. I have channeled, but in the past 15 years, channeling, as it's commonly defined, has been reserved solely for ceremony. Whether that's a ceremony of one-to-one or in a group setting. That neither time, I don't know how many times it's happened. In none of those experiences have I planned on it, but others have moved into my body to use my mouth to speak, my hands to drum, to taste salmon and blueberries. I have channeled in a way and spoken and sung in languages that I have never heard, in ways that confound others. And for me, I'm just like, I don't know, because there's no need for me to be confounded by it, because I can't. There's no mystery to it. It just happens, and it's done happening, and then it happens again. However, this is not that. I'm just gonna guess that if that ever happened while I was recording a video, y'all would know. But just so we're clear, I'm not channeling this. The clarity is that I merely am. There is no filter. There is no other way to be than this, except when I have to do things like go to the real job. That's quite the challenge, and we'll touch on that later as I go through other definitions. I also I don't even know how to say this. I am loath to call myself spiritual, mostly because spiritual, what I call spiritual, is filled with limits of language, limits of definition, formulaic behaviors and dress codes, and things that are so far removed from my experience of the world and the expressions of all of this that I generally don't want anything to do with it. Which sometimes makes it difficult to interact with people when they have this idea that I am spiritual teacher. When I'm doing things like choosing very purposefully not to wear white, and to not couch my language. There are what I call, actually, I'm not going to say what I call it by myself. The norms and mores of most spirituality are not suited to truth, to honesty, and although they have very distinct purpose for many people in many cultures, they do not necessarily for me. Performance is unnecessary. Anything other than truth is unnecessary. It clouds things. It, by its very nature, creates division, perpetuates othering. In the way that particular religious groups will call themselves saved, or create like an ideal that makes someone worthy. And if you don't match that ideal, or a group doesn't match that ideal, they are not, or they are, for instance, going to hell. I don't participate in that. I also don't wear white because coffee, cat hair, ketchup, muddy dog paws, tea. I'm not often the most physically graceful person. And I wear what I eat and drink with some frequency. Yep, so we don't wear white all that much. Like 2 days ago, I was making curry and I opened a new bottle of turmeric. I just happened to be wearing my favorite white t-shirt that was quickly unwhite because the pressurized turmeric exploded. I had a single color, a monochrome, in fact. Holy celebration with unholy language while I was in the kitchen 2 days ago wearing white, and learned not to do that. I think it is obvious in the way that I have communicated in the past 15 years that I am not religious either, though I am surrounded by and work directly with ancestral beings and deities that are associated with very specific religions. Sometimes I know why they're around. For instance, actually this is a sometimes I don't know why they're around. For instance, the two most active or loud energies around me are Muhammad and Wishaki. 2 places on the planet, 2 vastly different, actually that's not true. They're different cultures. Were not vastly different before Islam became a thing. Usually those beings out that are not physical around me, the innermost circle shifts depending upon what is happening within me physiologically in terms of spiritual processing. What practical world information needs to come to me or through me into my awareness to get out to other people or organizations. And sometimes I ask specific people to come in to help me process things, to give me an understanding about how they navigated this in their time. There are not many around me that have been through this process, although Muhammad is one of them. Jesus is one of them. There are many more that have not. I mean, we don't know what their experiences are. We don't have a name for them. They aren't recorded in history. And some of those that are just happen to be in my world. Like, I don't know why Wishaki and Muhammad are hanging around these days. And as I was saying that, this brings another definition. So I described Wishaki and Muhammad as loud. Most people do not know that I'm a synesthete. What that means is that my physical sensory systems are, to use some others' language, are cross-wired. I am not blessed with the experience of seeing letters or numbers in color or tunes or song. I experience almost all physical sensory, I don't know what the word is to use. I experience almost all physical senses through touch, with the exception of the olfactory sense and some of taste. But visual stimuli often comes with physical touch, both internal, inside the boundaries of my skin or on my skin. All sound is tactile, which is its own thing. I know there are many people who experience frisson, Frisson. It's that goosebumply feeling when you hear particular types of music. I have that with all sound, except it's not all pleasant. In fact, one of the greatest challenges I have in navigating the practical world is creating ways for my body to recover from being touched all of the time. Particularly, like, say my practical world real job is a cashier at a local hardware store. In that hardware store, music plays every second. And I have to take a GABA supplement so that my nervous system doesn't short out after several hours of being pummeled. And often that's what it feels like. Even if I am supplemented, like by the end of my second day, every sound feels very harsh. It feels like steel wool within my ears, my brain, my belly, my heart, on top of my skin. And so all of this is to say, sometimes I will say, like a few minutes ago, I said Washaki and Muhammad were loud. Their loud isn't audible, which is one of the confounding things in the moment. It is their presence is so powerful and comes with electricity. And that electricity I feel through my hair, on my skin, and within my body, because this is the most porous being I have ever met that's in a body. So their loudness is not audible. It is a distinct kind of electric presence that requires my presence. And so if I say things, especially related to sensory type issues that seem off to you, ask for clarification, or remember in the back of your head that I experience the world as a synesthete. So some things are a little cross-wired. And when I try to explain my own experience, I often forget that there's an audience that doesn't have my shared experience. But moving on to more definitions as I look at my notes here. I think I need to be really clear that I don't even know how to say this. I need to be really clear that consciousness and God are two different things. Consciousness is this massive interconnected ball of, I call it a ball, we don't know if it's ball or not, replicative energy, and that is its job. Its job is just like the cooties, to keep replicating itself and to keep replicating itself. It has no interest in, no care about anything, especially us human beings. It is not connected to us in that way. It knows no other. It knows no self. So as all things experience their beingness, consciousness is experiencing. It just doesn't know Ingrid from an atom or an ion. That's its job. It keeps going. It keeps going. It's why when we talk about things like death and the transmutation of energies, we know that there is no death. There is merely a replication of energy that doesn't always look the same. God, different. God is vested in the human experience and the experience of other beings. It is not limited to human experience and expression. God, it has no gender. It merely is energy, one kind of energy, a singular energy with the singular focus of the replication of love. That is it. It does not require worship. It does not have any expectation of anything in return. It is not human. Although every now and again, its expression comes through a human very, very purposefully. As I understand this, and again, this is filtered through my own whatsits. This iteration of this God-human hybrid, in fact, each one, I guess, is, how it's used is pretty much dealer's choice. Although oddly enough, we're not really the dealer here. There is an alignment of passion and purpose with a solid and singular foundation of love that is to move communities toward love. And it begins with an individuated being. So my purpose, passion, expression of the highest love is different than, say, Muhammad's or the peacemakers or Jesus's or Sham's. By the way, I am not Jesus either. Just so we've all got that clear. And so I'm kind of circling back to this loathing the idea of spiritual. I'm not here to teach anybody how to be spiritual. There are, courtesy the World Wide Webs and the capacity to travel around the world for many, many of us, there are 12 gazillion ways to learn how to be spiritual. Find your way or don't. There is no prerequisite of being spiritual to love or be loved. Let that sink in for a hot little minute. There are ways that are not necessarily prescribed that help people arrive to a place where they can love and be loved. Many of those are called spiritual practices. I'm not going to teach you how to do that. I'm here to teach you how to love and to allow yourself to be loved. That's a whole thing. That's a huge thing that we take for granted, especially in the spiritual communities. You wouldn't think it'd be such a difficult thing, except it is, in part because of how religions, how colonial expansion banished and punished those who they couldn't banish for teaching how to love and be loved. So in this, we're going to talk about things like God and consciousness being separate and different things. However, beyond that sort of grandiosity, what we're going to be talking about is love in the practical world and how the practical expression of love, without the 1,200 different definitions of it, how that is manifest in us as individuated beings and as smaller communities within a global population. My purpose and passion in all of this is focused on how Indigenous women and girls are used as sexual fodder for both warfare and pleasure. And so what we'll be talking about is the coloniality of gender and how that affects modern law enforcement and national intelligence agencies in gathering, and how specific lenses that have othered other people and groups cause tremendous pain, and where that meets the practical world and fear of lack, fear of love, fear of accepting another when you don't know if you can accept yourself. I'm also going to add here that all of this is real. All of it matters. Though there is only meaning to what we give things, like meaning doesn't exist with anything beyond what we give it. However, the meanings that we do give it are what anchor individuals and communities to all things, and they matter. We're not actors in a play for consciousness or anything else. It matters. We matter. That is why love matters. If it didn't, none of us would keep coming back. If there are other things you want definitions of, please ask. I feel like I'm talking to myself here because there isn't much feedback. So if you have questions, just ask. I prefer those questions be asked publicly because I don't have the time or energy to do emailing of individual stuff. That's it. More later. I'm probably going to finish my tea and create another video about being forced into faith, because y'all, it's a thing. Till next time. Bye.